Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. I hope we're having a happier Monday than we had a happy Sunday. Short week for the Browns, so these questions are going to come in and out really quick. But of course, I mean, given how the game ended, we got a ton of questions. Let's get to these answers, man. We'll try to give some answers, right? Jeff, with the first question, says, "Wow, it's easy to blame another breakdown on the D. My feeling is it's a symptom of the same issue. Our fourth quarter philosophy is atrocious. Going back to the beginning of last year, we cannot play to lose rather than play to win. I think our philosophy causes." Okay. There are times where this criticism is valid, right? I do think there's some offensively. There is definitely some room for valid criticism there. That the offense can sometimes get too safe. Kevin Stefanski can get too conservative with his play calling. But I don't think that applies to this week. Here's why I say that. One, the offense went up by 13 and they didn't touch the ball again until they were down by 1. And this issue that you're talking about is an offensive issue, right? Where we're not as aggressive, where we're not going for the kill. Defensively, they weren't playing super soft coverages. Ironically enough, what you're complaining about, if the Browns would have actually did what you're complaining about, they probably would have won that game, right? If they would have went into that last drive in soft zone, quarters coverage, or prevent, they probably wouldn't have given up the 64-yard touchdown. They probably wouldn't have been in position to let them get those 14 points in like 180 seconds. It all wouldn't have happened if the Browns actually did what you were saying. So I don't think this is the week to beat that drum, because if they would have beat the drum that you say that they beat too much, they would have won the game. You know, this was miscommunication, not knowing how to get into your sets. And why are we running, why would anybody think we're running cover 2 in that situation? But that's what happened. Kyle McMillan says, "Is there anyone currently on the defensive staff that could realistically replace Joe Woods if the defense continues to have major lapses in communication?" No, I've looked at the roster. There's nobody. There is nobody on that defensive coaching staff that has any level of credibility to take over the defensive roster. So it's Joe Woods the rest of the way out. They're not going to install new defense. And honestly, here's the thing. Whenever we want to fire an offensive coordinator because we don't think they're good, if you don't have a qualified replacement on hand, you're basically just firing the guy that you don't think's good to hire their understudy. I'm not trying to see what Joe Woods' understudy doing, right? I see what Joe Woods be doing. I'm not trying to see what his disciple is out here doing, right? And the one guy that will replace him, the DB/passing coordinator coach, some people think he might be the problem. So Pee Wee says, "I still feel optimistic about this season. Offense looked good in both games. Defense keeps letting catastrophic plays happen. Do you feel optimistic about the season still?" I do. Look, my biggest concern still is hey, will this offense be abysmal? Will this be a bad offense? If it's a bad offense, they're going to have a hard time winning the games that they need to win. But it's not a bad offense, and we know that the defense. And I'm going to be real with y'all. The defense does this shit every year, right? Where they have a horrible, unexplainable game where they lose the game solely on the deep. Last year was the 45 unanswered versus the Patriots. They do this every year. And then they usually bounce back after it. I think they're probably going to bounce back. These problems aren't super deep, right? It's not like when Andrew Sadeo was getting exploited and it was because we didn't have the personnel. This is more we just not getting the calls in. And that can be fixed. That could be fixed by Thursday if they really focus on it. But, yeah, I feel pretty good. Look, if the defense can play any semblance of complimentary football, which they should be able to do anytime soon, this team has a good chance to win some games that we might have not thought were winnable at the beginning of the season, right? Some games like Cincinnati, that game looks more winnable now, right? The Patriots, that game looks more winnable now, right? Some of these games that we thought were unwinnable before suddenly became a lot more winnable. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Look, I know we put a lot of focus and attention on these first 4 weeks. The Browns didn't have to go 4-0 in order to get anything out this season. I think they can still get 5 to 6 wins with the offense playing the way they are. I think they're still in fine position. 0-2 would be a disaster. You're fine. You're 1-1. The next question comes from Counter, who says, what are your thoughts on Mike Prefer? I know he came into the org as a big-name special teams coach, but it doesn't look like he has produced. The onside kick, the fake punt, the general feeling of dread on punt returns have to fall on him. Yeah, I've been on this boat for a while. I think Mike Prefer's job should be evaluated at the end of the year because there are things that keep popping up with him that are his fault. The kickoff coverages were terrible all game against the Jets. I think we gave up like 3 30-yard kick returns. The next thing with him is the punt return coverage is not great. Our gunner action, not great. And then when we look at his development, right, when he has to develop players to return punts and kicks, there's always something weird going on, right? Why is it that Donovan Peoples-Jones and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Demetric Felton both do things when they return punts that make us nervous? It can't be that they're being coached to do some of this stuff, right? Then with Mike, like the onside kick recovery, I don't get why we were aligned like that. It just didn't make sense. They weren't prepared for it. The fake punt, I don't care about the fake punt. Like they brought that out of nowhere. It was a great throw by the punter. That's not on Mike Prefer. But the bad kick return coverage, that's on Mike Prefer. The onside kick, I don't know. I feel like that was a good play too. Like I think the Jets just made a great play on that onside kick. So I don't know how much that is his fault, but the lack of players produced, I do think it's on the special teams coach. And I do think that's why he should probably be evaluated at the end of the year. Andrew Jackson says, is this problem the scheme they put in place for this game or the lack of adjustments? Why play zone if your secondary is a beast of man coverage? We are all assuming that the Browns are good in man coverage. They're fine in man. They're just as good in man as they are in zone. Like, for whatever reason, we make these assumptions of guys based on their college report, like scouting reports. But like Denzel Ward, he's been a zone corner for 5 years. Greg Newsome is a better zone corner now than he was a man corner. Like, I think we have a fascination with man coverage, but there's not a lot of teams that run man coverage in the NFL for a good reason, right? Like, they don't run primary man coverage. Nobody really runs primary man coverage. Everybody runs zone. So I don't think it's a scheme. This scheme has been proven to work. Other teams have used this scheme and worked pretty well for them. Like, it ain't the scheme. Is it the lack of adjustments? I don't know what the adjustments are because they couldn't get the play calling. Right? Basically, what we have on defense is that sometimes they're running 2 different plays. And imagine trying to run 2 different plays on offense and how that would go. It can't be any better on defense. That's the problem. They weren't on the same page. They weren't running the same plays. When that happens, no matter what coverage you're in, man, zone, cover 3, 4, 6, whatever shell you want to be in, it's going to get busted if everybody's not running the same play because zone is designed for people to be in specific spots. Defense in the NFL is designed for people to be in specific spots, to take care of specific portions of the field. But if you got 2 people in the same spot, then you got a big hole somewhere else. That's basically it. They just need to get the play call in and run the damn play. When they run the damn play and they get the play call in, they're a pretty good defense. They're a really good defense, actually. It's that they don't always have the same play call in for everybody. And that's what's been killing them. That's what's given up what I would say they've given up 28 fourth quarter points off of just not running the play. That's it. Seriously. I'm dead serious. They've given up 28 if you had the extra points. 28 fourth quarter points in the last like 5 minutes of those games, mind you, off of just not getting a play in properly. Ridiculous. That's the problem. We could talk man, zone. If you can't get the damn play in, it don't matter. It's the NFL. They get the plays in on Friday. They get the plays in on Saturday. It's Sunday now. You get paid millions of dollars. Get the damn play in. Run the play. That's the problem. That's the problem. It ain't the zone. It ain't the scheme. It's not what kind of coverages, soft zone this, that. It's not any of these buzzwords that people want to use. It's that they can't get the play call in. That's the problem. Whatever reason. Everybody don't get the same play call. Some people run the cover 2. Some people run the cover 3. Then they don't know which one's doing what. Every play I see, why are you here? You should be here. This is basic stuff, man. This is basic stuff. Everybody jokes at the beginning of training camp that the Browns are spending a week installing cover 2. We can't run cover 2 right now because everybody don't know that we run it cover 2. That's the problem. It's the zone. I'm so tired of the zone man discourse because it's just hypothetical. In reality, everybody runs zone. You have to be able to run zone in the NFL. This is not college football. You got to run zone. And you can't run zone if you can't get the play call in. And if you can't get the play call in, man ain't going to save you. You're going to bust more coverages running man, not having a play call in, not having everybody know. Because what happens in man coverage when somebody thinks that they have this man and then somebody else thinks they got the same man? It's an even worse busted coverage. The busted coverages don't get fixed by simply running man. That's not a solution. The solution is figuring out why the play call can't get in consistently. Because when they run the play, they're a good defense. They're a great defense when they run the damn play. But they don't be running the damn play. That's the problem. I mean, it's really that simple. That's why this could get fixed by Thursday. It cannot be a thing by the end of this week. But that's the problem. Ain't nothing else. Everybody trying to tell you about scheme and all this. They're pushing agendas. And I don't know how many of the people talking about scheme that sell y'all it's scheme really even know what the scheme is. Because they say shit that exposes that they don't know what they talking about when they talk about scheme. And I'm not talking about individually or people as fans. I'm talking about people with bigger platforms like media that pushes these narratives. I don't think they really know what they're talking about when it comes to scheme because it seems like they don't know about how they word these things. But yeah, that's the problem. It ain't the scheme. I hate to break it to y'all. I know a lot of y'all want it to be the scheme. Y'all hate Joe Woods' zone coverage, whatever it is. But it ain't the scheme, man. It ain't the scheme. Saint says, now that we've had time to cool down after that disgusting loss, what do you think needs to happen to fix the miscues in the second? There's a great question to ask after that rant. Basically, here's why I think. I'm going to give some concrete answers on why I think would help change things. Keep Anthony Walker on the field the whole game. Stop rotating him in with Jacob Phillips. This is not preseason. It's not a competition. Homeboy lost. If Jacob Phillips was that guy to be the Mike linebacker, Anthony Walker would not be on this roster. But the fact that Anthony Walker's on this roster means he's the Mike. And you know what? I want to see him get an extension at the end of the year because every time he's not on the field, bad shit happens. Make Anthony Walker the Mike. Keep him there for the whole game. Stop rotating him. Jacob Phillips is going to have to sit. I'm sorry. He's just going to have to sit. He's a good player, but he's just not better than Anthony Walker, and we need Anthony Walker right now. Maybe he could play some Will or Sam, but Anthony's going to be the Mike. He's going to stay on the field the whole game. That way you get the play call in properly. Maybe, because I think the whole reason for getting Greg Newsome and putting him at the slot was to get off the field on third down. That has proven to not be to solve the answer to that problem. We are not getting off the field in third down, and Greg Newsome's in the slot. So put Greg back on the boundary, have Denzel back on the boundary where they're comfortable, where they know the play calls, and then maybe DeAnthony Bell in the slot. And you can run 3 safeties out there more often. But one of those safeties will be a nickel DB in a 4-2-5 set. Now, I think that'll help. It's really that simple. Anthony Walker helps you get the play call in, and then DeAnthony Bell can push Greg Newsome back outside so you can have more consistency on the boundaries. And I think everything will be all right. Again, this is a simple fix. That's my opinion on how to fix it. There's plenty of other ways to fix it. That's not the only way to. This is not a complex problem. These things have real simple solutions. They just have to pick one and go with it. Meg Digital says, hey, Q, some people are blaming Nick Chubb for not taking a knee on the 1 yard line, but situational awareness is Kevin Stefanski's responsibility, correct? He should have communicated that, assuming that he didn't. I don't know what they communicated, what they didn't. I know Nick Chubb scored from like 20 yards out. I know when I was watching that game, there was not a single thought in my mind that the Browns should take a knee and just kneel the game out. That was not on my mind. Right. And part of the reason it wasn't on my mind because there was 2 minutes left in that game. And if they would have kneeled the ball 3 times before the Nick Chubb run, they would have given the Jets the ball back with 40 or 60 seconds left in the game. That's not good. Right. They handed the ball off to Nick Chubb thinking, hey, he's probably going to get 2-3 yards. They're waiting for the run. Nick Chubb broke it big. By the time he got to the end zone, his momentum was too much to stop him from scoring. How can you blame that on anybody? We're blaming Kevin Stefanski for scoring a touchdown that put the team up 13 points. I don't get that. I don't get the offense is not the problem. You gave up 13 points in 2 minutes. That's the problem. Everybody's trying to, differentiate themselves and say that different things are a problem so they can stand out. But this ain't, I don't know what to compare it to. I'm sorry, my mind blanked. But this is not rocket science. I'll just use a cliche. This is not rocket science. You give up 13 points in less than 2 minutes to a team with no timeouts and Joe Flacco. I don't know how we try to decipher this blame anywhere else but the defense that gave up 13 points in less than 2 minutes to Joe Flacco. I really don't. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. It's right there. Literally the smoking gun. Offense went up by 13 points. They didn't touch the ball again till they was down 1. Tell me how that's on the offense. It's on the defense. That was embarrassing on their part. Shit can't happen again. Freddie Walnut says, how about AFC North teams losing last week? Crappy loss, learn from it, crush the Steelers this week too. Lots of football left. Yeah, we're still 1-1 at the end of the day. I mean, like if we was 0-2 like the Bengals, oh man, I'd be mad. But we not. We 1-1. You know what I mean? So life could be worse. The AFC did all lose. It is what it is. It's just one of those weeks. Sometimes those weeks happen. And luckily for me, for somebody who has to do AFC North Talk, by the way, if you watching this, go check out AFC North Talk right after you watch this because it will be on at 5 o'clock. So if you want to see more of me, check it out. But yeah, man, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff for sure. But thank you for those questions. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.